Hello everyone, it is Liam, the Death Doom Metalhead, and today I'm doing a filthy, horrible death metal update. All of this is death metal. There's some funeral doom in there with really death metal tinges to it. There's some fresh, deathy kind of stuff. There's progressive death metal. There's all sorts of fucking death metal. So we will crack on. In the background is the very first album, if you can hear it. This is a Desert Wastelands Productions album. This is a 2022 release, and it is the tits. It's my favourite at the moment. I've been playing it all day, and that is the latest one from Cryptic Hatred. I can't read the screen. With their album Nocturnal Sickness. Like I said, this is a brand new release from a very young band. I think all these lads are about 18 and under, which is insane. If you can hear it, the quality is mental. I was aware of this band a while ago through Ken over at Ken's Death Metal Crypt, because they did an EP, very raw EP, but the riffs were there, but the production was very live, horrible sounding production, so you could kind of make it out, but it wasn't all there. But then this, wow, I mean, this shits all over that. I mean, it really is like a Boys to Men kind of scenario when it comes to this. It's 10 tracks and it's just brutal, just my kind of death metal. Bags and bags of those riffs that they're really good at. And if you can hear it, I mean, this is the first track off the CD, and hopefully you'll go through the whole video listening to it. It's just brutal. So if you haven't checked this out, can't recommend this enough. It's just so good. There's a picture of the lads in there looking all sinister. But yeah, Finnish band. They formed in 2019, and yeah, very promising. And this is right up there, top 10 at the moment for me of what I've heard this year. It is the tits. So yeah, next one is my favourite split so far this year, and I've had this on a lot as well since I picked it up. This is a 2022 split between two Canadian chaps that have worked together in quite a few projects, and that is Intestinal Hex and Pukewraith with Medieval Grime. This was put out through Gurgling Gore this year, and as you can see by the cover art, it's wicked. So this is a split between two projects that are similar but also quite different. So Daniel, who's in Intestinal Hex, is known for being in Fumes and a bazillion other projects, but he has this very distinct guitar tone that he uses, and it's very thick, very scooped, and he's very technical, and his solos are really weird, and I love it, absolutely love it. But Pukewraith was a new one on me. I was aware of the name, and there's an EP I've been dying to pick up, but I've never seen it in the wild, and it's a chap called Brendan. But Daniel and Brendan have also worked together in several projects called Gut Void, and I think Brendan also did the vocals on some of the Fumes EPs that I have. So they're very good friends, and they're both doing their own things. So both chaps do their own drum programming, guitar work, bass work, vocals, you know, the lot. It's mental, absolutely mental. And what's really cool is it's not split between each side of the tape. Each song throughout this split is each band, so you get the whole thing in one hit, and I really like that. I kind of get bored sometimes with they put each band on one side of the split, because you kind of then ignore the side you don't really like. I haven't got that issue at all. I love all of this. I mean, the tape is really dark, you probably can't see it in that light, but it's just sinister, absolutely sinister. J Card is really done as well. Gurgling Gore always does a great job of anything he touches. J Card's like that. So yeah, if you haven't picked this up or even heard this, strongly recommend checking the links out below, because it's just brilliant. The tones on it, the production. And like I say, Pukewraith was the first time I've actually heard them, and I love it. Absolutely spot on. I already like Intestinal Hex. I've got the debut full length up there somewhere. And yeah, absolutely killer. So really happy to finally find out. That was a lucky find in the UK. Next is some Seattle old school legend. Now these were sent to me, I can't even talk, by Krucyator Productions. These are gifts, so I thank you for that massively. These are 2022 represses from albums that came out in 2003 and 2004, and that is the band Drawn and Quartered. This is the second full length, and this is the third full length. So we've got Extermination, Revelry, and what's this one called? Return of the Black Death. Now these lads have been going, say, since the 90s, and I think before that they were called something else. And I think there's only two original members. One's called Herb, I think he does the vocals. Just old school sounding American death metal, so you know, what's not to like about that. bags and bags of riffs on these releases. The latest one that came out, I think last year, was good, but I do prefer these. These are heavier, more intense, but they're not too dissimilar, so you can't really complain. Favourite out of the two is probably this one. Loads of really good riffs on that one. But yeah, Drawn and Quartered are fucking fabulous. And the label Crucyator Productions, who sent them to me, are a French label who have the license, I think, to reissue all these over in Europe. So worth checking out if you haven't checked that label out. Actomorph was another band of theirs from last year that I really enjoyed. But yeah, Drawn and Quartered, absolutely fabulous. Love me some American death metal. CD repressors are fully covered as well with lyrics and all that kind of thing. And Return of the Black Death as well. So I need to pick up the debut from these guys now, because it's kind of bugging me that I don't have it. So that's on my hit list. But yeah, really nice to get them. I didn't even expect these, so thank you to whoever organised that, because that was spot on. Right, next one is another 2022 full-length album. This is the, I think it's the debut, isn't it? No, it's the second full-length album from this one-man project from Arizona, and that is Thorn with Yawning Depths. This is all done by Brennan Westermeyer, and this is just some really filthy, nasty death doom. Been aware of Thorn since I picked up a split through him and Fumes through Cavernous Records. That was my kind of first introduction to Thorn, but the production on that split was a bit low in the mix, so the volume was vastly different to the Fumes one. But I have no issues with this whatsoever. This is brutal. Riffs everywhere. I picked up the album from last year that came out, and that was really good, but I think this is better. More riffs. J-Card's really cool. Another Gurgling Gore release. Tape is a nice slimy green, which is really cool. But yeah, Death Doom, cavernous, horrible, murky. I mean, what's his name? Brennan does all the instruments on this, so there's no guests or anything that I didn't see any when I read it. So he's done everything on here, so the drums, the bass, the vocals, the production, everything is done through him. So that's really, really cool, because it's really hard to do that by yourself. Get it signed, you know, get it out there to the world. And this is, like I say, it was a full length, so he was one that came out last year, and he's already followed it up with another one. So I was kind of surprised, but again, a lucky find in a distro here in the UK. Got these in and they went like lightning, so I was on it like a fucking, you know, instantly, and as soon as I saw this, because I was after this. So yeah, Thorn, absolutely awesome. Check that one out. Right, next one is a bit of a weird one. So this features a vocalist from a very legendary band, and most people will know this guy, but maybe not this album, or this band even. Now I'll try and pronounce it properly. It's called Akatharta, and this is the album Spiritus Amundus. Now this is a band that was formed in '99, and this album didn't come out until 2017. I think there's an EP or a demo just before this. Now the reason I say you might know who the vocalist is, this is Cam Lee's Funeral Doom project. So reading up on this, he got really into Mournful Congregation and wanted to do a Funeral Doom band. But being where he's from, there's very few musicians that want to go less than 500 miles an hour on the guitar. But the rest of the band are from the band Cropsy Maniac, if you've heard of them. So the bass, guitars and drums on this are all from that band, and then Cam Lee does the vocals. And like I say, it's Funeral Doom, and Cam Lee, I mean, he's got some really good pipes on him, you know, Massacre and all that is brilliant, but his vocals in Funeral Doom are spot on, like really guttural, really low end. But this is a weird album for two reasons. One, Cam Lee kind of doing Funeral Doom is kind of like a no-brainer. Why has it not happened before? But also, this is the first band, an album, to use what they call EVPs, which is that when you record ghost noises of spirits and you hear them being picked up on the recording. I don't know what they call it. Is it electronic recordings of interpreted spirits? Something like that. So throughout this whole album, that's been injected into it. So, you know when you watch those really shit shows on daytime TV and someone's going through a house or something like that, and they hear these ghost noises being picked up on their like Ghostbuster thing. That's basically what's all over this album. And it is a real thing apparently, but I don't believe it. And neither does Cam Lee. If you read the liner notes, he says he's not a believer of it, but there you go. Album artwork looks sick. But this is really, really good, like really good. The only downside to this, they do a Celtic Frost cover of Dethroned Emperor, but he still uses those vocal effects from the previous music. So you've got slow, dirgy, horrible death metal, but then Dethroned Emperor's got quite an upbeat riff, and it's too busy for that vocal effect, so his vocals kind of get lost in that cover. You know, the riff works solid, but because he's using this like delayed effect on the vocals, it doesn't really work. So that's my only downside to it. But the actual album itself, if you haven't checked it out, I'll leave a link below, because that is a really, really good, dirgy, horrible Funeral Doom album with Cam Lee on vocals. So go check it out. I love this album. Right, what's next? What have I got? Where did I put it? Here it is. So, next is a Finnish Death Doom band. I managed to find all 3 of their albums on eBay for less than, I think, £6 each. I'm well happy with this. And that is the band Krypts. And this is their entire full-length discography. I think there's only an EP, a demo and a compilation that I need to pick up now. So we have here, I'm using notes if you keep wondering why looking over there. So this band are a Finnish band that formed in 2008, and they've got 2013's album Unending Degradation. Probably butchered that. And then we've got 2016's Remnants of Expansion, and then 2019's Cadaver Circulation. Now, Krypts are just a no-nonsense, solid, funeral, deathy kind of doom band. Very slow, very thick, very murky, and they're just brilliant. I mean, the Finns always do that death metal growl really, really well, and I think nearly any metalhead in Finland has a fantastic death metal growl. Find me a band that doesn't have it, that does it in Finland. Because even those shitty like folk bands somehow bring out some growls now and again, like, ooh, that's really cool, but then the rest of the music's wank. But these guys, solid from start to finish. Not much changes up throughout these 3 albums. That's the first one I ever heard back. Ooh, I think this came out, I actually heard that when I was in a real phase of finding new Finnish bands. I actually discovered them when they came out. But I never bought it, which was annoying, because it's really hard to find on vinyl. But I have it on tape, so you know I can at least listen to it physically. But yeah, brilliant, brilliant band. Really happy. These all came out through Dark Descent. All, you know, well-produced tapes. They're very loud. They're very clear. You know, nothing fancy to look at. There's no fancy colours or nothing like that. They're all black. So yeah, well fucking happy with that eBay find, because that was a cheap score, you know, free postage as well, so I was laughing with that. So yeah, Krypts. Next is an album I've had for a little while now, but actually haven't gotten around to show it. Everyone's probably talked about it, but I'm going to talk about it now because I love the band. That is the band Wharflurch, and this is their debut full-length, Psychedelic Realms of Hell. So this came out last year through Personnel Records, which is a Mexican label, and these guys are from Florida. I think they formed in 2019, and they are a death doom band that kind of inject that kind of psychedelic, and then there's a lot of kind of simp stuff put in there as well to layer it and give it that kind of weird, trippy atmosphere. And it's just fucking spot on. I mean, Michael Colby, kind of the face of the band, should we say, on the internet and social media. He's a funny guy and a really good guitar player. You watch his riffs and the passion he puts into it. You know, it's well crafted. The vocals, I think the drummer's the vocalist, is brutal. Reminds me a lot of Autopsy. And they're just fucking fun band. You know, just really good death doom. I actually really like the kind of trancey kind of gaps between the songs, because it gives this album a bit of breath, and then it doesn't then sound like every other death doom band, because I can put on probably 6 of these and they all kind of sound similar. This one doesn't. This one stands out a lot. It's got some naughty riffs in it, like Stoned Ape Apocalypse is my favourite one off here. That kind of slamming riff at the start, even though it's not very adventurous in its way it's played, it's just really good fun. I imagine live there's bodies flying everywhere when that comes on. And yeah, and all the little gaps in between, I really enjoy that, because I kind of like, I'm going through a phase of listening to kind of dark ambient trance music for some reason at the moment, and I don't know what it's called, synthwave and shit like that, I don't know why. And that kind of clicked with me when I listened to that. So yeah, really good album if you haven't heard that, which I imagine you probably have if you're a fan of this channel. Right, what's next? Oh yes, this one. So this is a band from Chile, Santiago, Chile. It is a 2-man project, but most of the work is done by a guy called Abel Mendes, yeah, and this is an EP, I believe, or was it full length? I think it might be a full length that came out last year. This is The Art of Resilience. This is a Stump Grinder release. I believe this is also out on CD somewhere else, but I couldn't tell you where. It's also got a chap called Mateus who does all the lead work on this, and yeah, just no nonsense Chilean style death metal with a bit of doomy influences in there, tiny little bit. But I really enjoyed this. I was kind of glad to see this in the UK as well because I wanted this when it came out. I speak to Abel now and again on Instagram, and Anthony over at Metal Miners raves about this band, and rightly so. They're really good. There is a picture of him looking all cult there on the J card. And then you've got lyrics there and thank yous. You know, it's just really cool. I can't moan about it any way, shape or form. It's just underground sounding death metal, and you know, riff wise and what is delivered is kind of what that production needs. It needs that kind of rawness to it, so that is where you get what you get from this. So if you haven't checked it out, I'll obviously leave a link below. But yeah, Resilience is fucking awesome. Go check it out. Right, I bought this one purely because of the name, because I'm an idiot and I like stupid names. This is the band Spasticus, and this is their EP Horror Chaos Death that came out last year through Necrolatry or Necrolatry Records. I never even heard of this band. I can't even remember where I saw this. It was a guy, Jorgen, who lives in Norwich. I don't even think that's his real name, but he has his own YouTube channel, if you know who I'm talking about. And he showed this, and I just giggled because I saw the name Spasticus, and I don't know why I laughed, but I did. So I checked it out, and it's death thrash. It has an autopsy vein, but the very early autopsy, so it's fast and it's just nasty. But the names of the fucking musicians on here are funny as well. So this is an Italian band, but I believe the vocalist is from the Netherlands. So you've got a guy called Jan Spasticus who is on masturbation riffs, and then you've got a chap called Krost von Barbary who does throat tumours, Walter 666 who does the tuppa, which is the drummer, and then Lorenzo Subhuman who's on the 4-string Assault, just to make it sound cool, but he just plays bass. But you know, 5 tracks. Tracks are called like stuff like Chemo Whore, Birth to the Plague, you know, COVID, Conquest Mania, and yeah, it's just silly, no nonsense, thrashy death metal, you know, nasty sounding. Even the cover kind of tells you basically what it's about. I thought at first this was an Indonesian band, and I think this might be an Indonesian label that put this out. I never actually researched it. But yeah, an Italian death thrash band. Go check it out. It's fun. It's just silly. Right, something a bit more serious now. This is an EP that came out last year through Aesthetic Death Records here in the UK. This is the band BARÚS, and this is their EP Fangs. I think they have an EP prior to this and a full length. They're a French band formed in 2015, and this is their second EP from 2021. And they're more of a progressive death metal, so this has got way more scope to it. It's a bit doomy, and then it kind of gets very atmospheric, and then there's some technical bits in there on the riffing, and then it just gets solid, no nonsense, kind of slammy kind of death metal, but in a really productive way. It's not just slam, all those kind of riffs, nothing like that. It's just the way the riffs kind of make you slam into things. That's what I'm trying to say. But this was a gift actually through Stuart Aesthetic Death. I brought a few things from him, and he kind of slung that in there. And I was aware of the artwork because I've seen it on his site, but I never actually knew what it was. I thought it was some kind of folky thing for some reason, but it's not. It's progressive death metal. Very good. I've really enjoyed this. It's slow to start with. It's not one of those things you can flick on and instantly you get hit with some barrage of guitar riffs. It builds and builds and builds. I think it's about 19 minutes long, and then about the 10 minutes in, then you get the kind of the gritty side of it comes out, and then it kind of gets heavier and heavier as the EP continues. But worth checking out if you haven't, because like I say, if you're into your death metal, you get a ton of bands that sound similar. These guys kind of a bit more diverse, a bit more flavour in their music. I mean, a lot of this is in French. I haven't got a fucking clue what they're talking about. Even the songs are in French. The lyrics aren't though, so you can read the lyrics. But yeah, a really cool EP, and I need to go check out their full length because I really like that. And Aesthetic Death do wondrous work. Right, this is another Desert Wastelands release that came out last year. This is a split between an Australian band and an Italian band. The Australian band being Vile Apparition, and the Italian band being Miscreance. There's no name, I don't think, for this split. But look at that cover. Terminator-esque. That made me kind of buy it. Now, I got these Desert Wasteland production ones through Cavernous Records. I was very lucky. I saw it, I think it was Instagram a couple of weeks ago, that he was talking about doing a swap with them. And anyone who lives in the UK knows Desert Wasteland stuff is great, but it's really expensive to kind of bring it over here unless you buy it in bulk. I mean in bulk. So when Chris got a load of these in, I jumped on it instantly, and I think I barraged him with loads of messages because his big cartel crashed when I was trying to pay for them, and I thought, fuck, I've missed it. But I had to apologise because I then realised I'd done it through the Consecration Instagram page, and about 8 messages from me panicking because I couldn't buy them. But I digress. So this is a split between by Apparition, which is like a solid Australian sounding death metal band. You know, they've got that crunchy, horrible noise. I absolutely love what Australian death metal bands is. Raw, it's angry, it's got a really thick guitar tone. And then Miscreance is more of a death thrash with a kind of a hardcore-esque kind of vocal style, like kind of like Gatecreeper-esque in a way. A bit more bouncy, a bit more, you know, in the vocal style. Whereas Via Apparition is just brutal and low end, you know, and horrible. But a really, really cool split, and it's weird to see the two styles because they were very, very different when I was listening to this in one band, and then it goes into the other style. You know, it's quite a jump, especially on the CD format, because you don't flip the tape; you just obviously just listen to it all the way through. But yeah, really, really happy to have that because that is really good, and I love the cover. And lastly, ending with an Australian band. This is an EP that I was after for ages last year, and I just couldn't find it cheap enough, and then Chris again at Cavernous Records, one of the best distros in the UK for death metal across the world. You know, he does deals with all sorts of labels. It's really, really good. And this is Pustilence with their EP, The Birth of the Beginning Before the Inception of the End. Now this is a Personnel Records release again, a Mexican label, does great work. This band formed in 2018 in Queensland, and this actually came out in 2020, but then didn't get a physical release until 2021. There's a few labels have done it. Bitter Lost Records, if you watched my last video, have done the vinyl version of this, and I think there's another label that's got a CD copy of this you can get, and I think a tape version as well. But yeah, really, really solid death metal, thrashy in some parts. You know, just nasty Australian style death metal. Like I always say, I love Aussie death metal. There's so many bands going out from Australia now, and I was really lucky to get that package like in the last video that shows you just how much there is you can pick up from that part of the world. But you don't hear about it a lot over here though until you go on. You know, you have to go deep into the underground to hear about them. And Pustilence was one of them. I saw a lot of people show this last year. I just couldn't find it anywhere, and then, you know, without paying silly postage amounts. So yeah, a really, really cool EP, worth checking out. I mean, they're all worth checking out. I wouldn't show them otherwise. So yeah, brilliant. So yeah, what are we on? 23 minutes, not too bad. So that's a lot of death metal for you to sink your teeth into there. All killer, no filler. I wouldn't show them otherwise. I have to say a massive thank you to anyone who's purchased Consecration's new album on the pre-order. That was announced some point last week through Redefining Darkness Records, so I can put a link up there to his Bandcamp, and you can go and pre-order the CD or the vinyl. CD has more tracks on it because we weren't allowed to have a double vinyl because we're not that famous yet, but you know, that might happen one day where you get an album with the whole fucking thing on vinyl. But it's worth doing. The vinyl's to the point. It has all the, you know, the best songs on it essentially. And yeah, and then there'll be a tape from Life After Death which has been announced, and there'll be all sorts of crazy shit. And like I said in my Instagram story, if you follow me on there, I've got these postcards, picture of us gay boys looking all hard and scary in a graveyard. So yeah, well worth your time. And there'll be t-shirts, I know that, which get the quotes for them. There is talk of doing a long sleeve, but they're really, really expensive to do, so I think we're going to have to do a pre-order for that. But yeah, anyway, who cares? Unless you do care, obviously check the links out. I'll provide everything and you can talk to me about it. So, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider liking this video, and if you are new to my channel, my ramblings, please consider subscribing. I will pump content here, and everywhere else it will let me, with other videos to check out. In the meantime, I will speak to you all in the comments. Take care.